Hey geometry students, welcome to your first math ed puzzle. Today we're going to talk about section 2.1, which is naming angles and types of angles. So here we go, it should be fun. So first we're going to start off with our learning targets for this unit. So first we got naming angles using letters. So we're going to learn to name angles using letters. We're also going to learn to use the terms acute, obtuse, and right to describe angles. And we're going to learn to use the terms adjacent, complementary, supplementary, linear pair, and vertical to describe angles. Here we go. Starting off with naming angles. So first we have to know what exactly is an angle. So angles are formed when lines intersect. So we've got, in this picture, line FH intersecting with line GI at this point E. And when it does, it forms four different angles here. So this red one is an angle, this blue one is an angle, the other red one and the other blue one are also angles. So that adds up to four angles that are formed when two lines intersect. Okay, so when we're naming angles, we're going to use three letters. And the three letters we're going to use are the vertex, so the point in the corner, and a point from each side of the angle. So we've got the vertex B, and we have a point on each side, A and C. And the way we're going to name them is we can call this one angle ABC, or we can call it CBA. But the vertex, B in this case, has to be in the middle. So the vertex has to be the middle letter. And the shorter way to write angle is to use this angle symbol here. It's kind of like a bent L. It looks like an angle, right? So we write angle ABC as angle symbol ABC to save our hands a little bit because we don't want to write angle all the time. Okay, so another way that we can name angle is also with one letter or one number inside the angle. So right over here we've got angle A and we have angle B. Or in this case we have angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. So we'll see this more later on this week, not so much on tonight's homework, but it's something good for us to know. Okay, so now that we've talked about naming angles, let's talk a bit about what we can do with angles. So one thing that we're going to do with angles is we're going to measure them and talk about how big they are. So angles have measure, and it's measured in degrees, and degrees use this degree symbol. And when we're talking about measures of angles, we put a lowercase m next to the angle, and that means that we're talking about its measure. So m, angle ABC, means measure of angle ABC. Okay, so a few things we can talk about with regards to angle measure is acute. That's one way to classify an angle based on how big it is. So acute, those ones are kind of small angles. They're just so darn cute. It's any angle that is less than 90 degrees. And then we've got the obtuse angles. These are the big guys. They're between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So it's bigger than 90, but smaller than 180. And then we have the right angles, or you might have heard them called before like square corners or something like that, or a book corner. But a right angle measures exactly 90 degrees. So we've got a few different ways to talk about angle measure. We've got acute, the small guys, obtuse, the big ones, and right angles that are right in the middle at exactly 90 degrees. Okay, so then we're going to talk about adjacent angles. So in this picture down here, we've got two angles. We have angle AOB, and we have angle BOC. And notice how these two angles share this side right here, OB. So when two angles are sharing a side like this, they are called adjacent angles. It means they're next to each other, because adjacent means next to. And we can say something like this, like angle AOB is adjacent to angle BOC. We can also talk about angles being complementary. So in this picture, we have angle POQ and angle ABC. And when two angles have measures that add up to 90 degrees, they are called complementary angles. So we have POQ with a measure of 67 degrees, and we have ABC with a measure of 23 degrees, and those two add up to 90 degrees. So that means that angle POQ and angle ABC are complementary. Okay, so now we have supplementary angles as well. So the two angles in this picture are ABC and angle PQR. ABC has a measure of 130 degrees, and PQR has a measure of 50 degrees. So the definition for supplementary angles here is when two angles have measures that add up to 180 degrees, they are called supplementary angles. So complementary angles add up to 90, supplementary angles add up to 180. So we can say that ABC and PQR are supplementary because 130 degrees plus 50 degrees equals 180 degrees. So supplementary, 180 degrees, complementary, 90 degrees. Another thing we can talk about with angles is when they form a linear pair. So when two angles are both supplementary and adjacent at the same time, they are called a linear pair. This means that they add up to 180 and they also share a side. So, for example, these ones here, these are supplementary. They add up to 180. We know this because they're lying along the same line. And they also share a side. So that means that this one is a linear pair. These ones are supplementary. They add up to 180, but they're not adjacent. They don't share this side. They're next to each other, but they don't share a side. So that means that they are not a linear pair. So to be a linear pair, they have to share a side and they have to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about today is vertical angles. So the angles that are across from each other when two lines intersect are called vertical angles. So right here we've got the line AC intersecting with the line BD at point O. And the angles that are across from each other, so these two green ones and then these two pink ones, are vertical angles. So the green ones are vertical to each other, the pink ones are vertical to each other. Something that's special about vertical angles is that they have equal measure. So in this picture, we've got angle AOB, the green one, and angle DOC, the other green one, and these two will have equal measure. So that's one pair of vertical angles. And then our other pair of vertical angles, angle AOD and angle BOC, the two pink ones, are another pair of vertical angles, and these two will also have the same measure. Okay, so let's self-assess here. Did we meet our learning targets? So can you name the angles in this picture with letters? There should be 4. Can you tell me if angle MON is acute, obtuse, or right? And lastly, can you classify these two angles down here as a linear pair, complementary, supplementary, adjacent, or vertical? And also important to know, it's kind of hard to see down here. This angle is 60 degrees. This angle is 30 degrees. All right, so hopefully we learned a little bit about angles today. Thanks for watching, guys.